Former President Trump's mounting legal troubles. His attorneys have until 5 p.m. Eastern today to file a response to Special Counsel Jack Smith's request for a protective order in his January 6th case. That protective order would prevent Trump from spreading crucial information about this case publicly, information like case details and evidence. And this comes just days after Trump pled guilty to 4 felony counts, including conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruction for allegedly plotting to overturn the 2020 election and inciting that violence we witnessed on January 6th. ABC News political director Rick Klein joining me now, along with ABC's legal contributor and former federal prosecutor for New York's Southern District, Con Nowadays. So, Con, you know, the clock is ticking. What were to happen if Trump's lawyers don't respond?
Well, they're going to respond. They're going to put something in. And I think they're just trying to be careful about putting in something in that with the chance of actually winning. I don't think they're going to wholesale try to say, hey, there should not be a protective order at all in this type of case. These types of protective orders are routinely issued in cases where there may be some hint of witness chilling of witnesses and witness intimidation. So I think Trump's lawyers very well know that they're going to be on the losing side if they try to get this protective order totally thrown out. I think they're trying to find a way to thread the needle and get a protective order they can live with.
So, Rick, in perhaps his strongest comments to date, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is breaking with Trump when it comes to the former president's false claims about the 2020 election. He got it stuck to him in an interview. Let's take a listen.
Yes or no, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Whoever puts their hand on the Bible on January 20th every 4 years is the winner.
Okay, but respectfully, you did not clearly answer that question. And if you can't give a yes or no on whether or not Trump lost, then how can...
Of course he lost.
Trump lost the 2020 election.
Of course.
Okay.
Joe Biden's the president.
What'd you make of that moment, Rick?
Well, it's hardly the most crystal clear answer that you're going to get out of Governor DeSantis or at any of the major Republican contenders. And look, in some ways, that has become a fallback position. Kevin McCarthy answers it in a similar way these days. And a lot of people who were on the side of contesting the election results will say, look, obviously, it's Joe Biden in the White House. It's Joe Biden as the president. I'm interested to see how Trump responds because DeSantis has been about as loyal as anyone in that field has been. And I think the way that DeSantis also talked about the problems in the last election cycle will also be kind of hedging along the way. He's trying to have it both ways, as a lot of candidates are. In this case, he got pinned down to say, yeah, actually, the guy didn't win.
So, Rick, why did DeSantis wait so long, you think, in his campaign to, strike this kind of tone?
Yeah, Kira, what he's doing and so many of the other major Republican candidates are trying to do is to find a way to stay close to Trump supporters, even as you try to peel them off. And the thinking is that with about 2/3 of Republican voters in this country thinking that the election was stolen based on false information provided by Trump himself and his team in large part, that if you go out and say the opposite, that he lost and he's a loser, you might be alienating yourself. So all of these candidates, DeSantis included, are trying to bank on people deciding they need a backup choice if they decide they want to move away from Trump, but they want to find someone who is Trumpy enough. And that's why, for a long time, Governor DeSantis and many other Republicans have tried to avoid a direct answer to the question.
Got it. And Con, on this week, Trump's attorney John Lauro told our George Stephanopoulos that it was impossible to actually answer his question on whether or not Trump will be taking the stand, clearly keeping the option open, right? So would it be in the former president's best interest to testify in his own defense in this situation?
Testifying is always risky as a criminal defendant, so I'm not surprised that John Lauro is saying that he can't answer that question, and it's always the defendant's decision. I think the issue here is ultimately that it's going to be really hard for the former president to put up the type of defense he needs to put on without testifying. Because if his defense is something to the extent of, I didn't know, and then I really believed that the election was stolen, well, who's going to say that but the former president? And it's going to be really hard. I think it's going to be a tough decision for the former president to take of whether to get on the stand or not. But I think that's going to be a key part of his defense.
So, Rick, let's look at some new polling here. 51% of Americans now believe this latest indictment against Trump is very serious, yet his support in the Republican primary remains incredibly strong. I mean, this is no surprise. We've been following this, right? So every time he's in a courtroom, no matter what happens, he still remains in the lead. What does this tell us or tell you about the state of the race right now at this moment?
Well, both things can be true, that Donald Trump is strong as ever in the Republican primary, but viewed increasingly skeptically by the general public. The best thing he may have going for him is that Joe Biden's approval ratings in our ABC News Ipsos poll are just about as bad. But it will end up being a choice between the two of them. And for anyone, and we've talked to a lot of voters around the country who say they're not worried on the Republican side for Donald Trump's electability, they should take a long, hard look at this, if nothing else, because Donald Trump would enter the general election with a lot of baggage, much of it pretty well deserved by his actions and the actions that are alleged in these multiple indictments. Voters get to decide on their own on electability, of course, and Republican voters get to make the choice first. But clearly, the voters are taking this seriously, and even to see a majority supporting the idea of a criminal charge is pretty striking.
And Con, you know, the judge is already pushing to get a trial date quickly. Could we see a date set during the first pretrial hearing on August 28th? And also, why would a judge push to get this moving? Is it because we're in a political season here?
To answer your first question, I absolutely believe that the judge is going to set a trial date, and it's going to be a quick trial date. It's going to be one that's going to come soon with enough time for the defense to prepare its defense. And I have to think that the election and what's going on in the public sphere is going to be driving the decision to make this trial happen quickly so that there could be some closure for the participants in the case as well as the public.
All right. And Con, you know, Trump's legal calendar, it's filling up pretty quickly, as you can see, right alongside his political calendar. So what would happen if he, you know, indeed was convicted and elected?
Well, that's going to be something that's we're all going to be dealing with. It's completely new to deal with. He can be elected president even in prison. So I think what would likely happen is, well, there are a couple things that could happen. One is the 25th Amendment can be invoked, saying that because he's in prison, he can't or has been convicted, can't do his duties. But I can see the Trump camp moving to actually force his release from prison somehow so that he could execute his duties. The answer is nobody knows what's going to happen, and let's not hope we get there.
All right. Rick, Con, thank you so much. It definitely would be another unprecedented moment, wouldn't it, in presidential history. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.